that just doesn't have to name call and doesn't have to get down in the ditch and start this kind of stuff because it just gets propagated.
You know, these days we're not doing our due diligence.
That's a taste of Project 2025. This week's episode of The Wise Guys, a podcast that unleashes the unthinkable in culture, religion, business, and everyday life. This week, the guys approach Project 2025 from practical, wise perspective. So, it's time to step over the line, strap in, and see if you are willing to let Mac, the Rev, and Coach Stu take you to a place of thinking differently.
Welcome to The Wise Guys, the podcast where we unleash the unthinkable and step over the line to help us see things differently and go to the inside edge, man. We might even answer some questions that you hadn't even thought to ask. So hi, gang. I'm Mac, your host, and I got the coach here. Got Coach Stu with me, man.
Hey, Mac.
Hey,
how are you doing? We're missing
Good.
a very important person tonight.
We are. The Rev's not with us tonight. We're going to miss him, but he's overseas.
Wow.
I think he's in Ireland, if I'm not mistaken, but I might have that wrong. But
is he going over there to try to meet some Rogers we have over there?
It could be. I hope he finds some. So that's awesome. But hey, you know what? This reminds me, man. Takes us back, doesn't it? When we were doing the duo.
Oh yeah,
so,
Good memories. Good
fun.
memories.
Yeah.
Well, hey Mac, let me say hello to all you beautiful exotic cocktails out there, and in 12 different countries.
Yeah. How about that?
So,
we got Rogers all over the place, man. This is cool.
Stick with us. I mean, the topic tonight is relevant for the United States, but I think there's relevance for any place you are. I mean, anytime you're trying to use wise discernment to evaluate any new kind of information, you know, I think that's valuable no matter what country you're in.
Amen to that, man.
Right?
Yeah. So you were going to gear this. We're going to go a little bit.
I do have my USA shirt on, though, today. I'm all ready.
I did notice that. Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So
if you're watching on YouTube, you're seeing it right here.
So it's all good, man. You know, we're wading in. We're gonna step over the line tonight, and we're gonna do a little. Yeah, we're gonna wade into some politics, which is exactly what is going on in the United States right now. But it's gonna be a little bit different. It's not gonna be one of these point counterpoint deals where we're gonna formulate a lot of opinions about A or B or take a stance, red or blue or. It's not about that, okay? And I think it's going to hopefully be a little refreshing for a lot of our listeners. We aren't going to go down that path. What we really want to do is try to be as factual. We want to try to just bring some information to you that maybe you didn't realize or you had no idea over. And at the same time, frame it in such a way that it can be applicable to all sorts of different information that you might get.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Hey, let me throw out real quick just some real authentic feelings I'm having right now.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna practice what we preach on this podcast.
Good.
So we talk a lot and we say the phrase a lot to get comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So I'm really uncomfortable because you know me. I don't want to be talking about politics, but this is important, and it's important to practice. You got to. What do I always say? You got to practice, right? So you got to practice these conversations. So we're going to do it.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. I know this one is stepping over your line a little bit, and it is uncomfortable for you. Now, you guys can understand a little bit more of the three of us. Rev, Coach Stu, and the Mac here. All right, I'm the one that goes more to these places of confrontation, or my personality's a little bit different than the other guys. Okay, and they teach me stuff every single week about how sometimes I just need to take a deep breath and I need to kind of just relax a little bit. And they're great for that. I really appreciate where they, bring me back from the edge a little bit, so.
Right. Drag you back over the line.
Exactly. So we're going to talk about Project 2025 tonight. Now, here's the scoop about that. Let me just say this. if I said that, you're going to fall into one of sort of 4 camps, more than likely. I'm generalizing, but here it is. So either you don't know squat about that. You're saying, what is Project 2025? I don't even know what you're talking about, Mac. Okay?
That was me in the beginning.
That was Stu. All right? So you may fall into that camp. You may have, camp 2 might be you've heard about it from whatever source, maybe social media or whatever it might be, but you really don't care. I mean, it's really not on your radar. It's not really something that floats your boat, whatever. You're kind of giving it a whatever, all right? Camp number 3 says, oh, yeah, I know all about that per se. You might think you do, but, either it's your party's platform or you've done your homework and you've looked into it maybe and you're going, I think that's a good idea. Okay? I think what what they're proposing, I would like to see that be part of how we govern the United States. And then, of course, the last camp would be, hell no, right? No way. Okay, I am against it. It's not what I would want to see. All right, I'm my party is different than that, and I'm going. I'm in opposition to it. Now, I guess there could be a 5th camp, and I probably didn't write this down, but it could be, and this is where we'd like to kind of maybe somewhat go tonight. It's 400 and some pages, right? Of stuff.
It's more than that.
400 or 500 pages.
I think it's double that.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
From what I know now after doing my research.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a lot.
Yes.
Let's put it that way. I looked at their PDF and I was looking through some of the different departments, and we'll kind of get into that. But the point is this. I would be willing to say, I'm going to go out on a limb here, Stu. All right. And I'm going to say that of however many pages, it's a lot of stuff.
Yes.
All right. I have got to believe that no matter what camp you're in, okay, you can be on the one camp of 4 or you can be on the one camp against. I got to believe that everybody can say, well, there's some good points in there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's not a bad idea, right?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, I can line up with that particular point or perspective or objective that you might want to. So, I think the first nugget that we want to get across here is that look for the good, okay? That there certainly can be certain things that can be commonly good for everybody. All right.
This is just a good way to be in life in general. We should be doing this with people too.
Yeah.
Right? No matter who you meet, look for something good you can find in them.
Just because, and again, we're going to talk about this, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. This Project 2025 was put together by the Heritage Foundation. Okay, this is a fact. This is who published it, all right? Mm-hmm. The Heritage Foundation makes no bones about it. They say it. They declare it, that they are a conservative think tank, all right? And so their agenda is from a conservative perspective. Now, so we've gotten to this place in America where, well, if the conservatives said it and I'm, a liberal, then it's no. There's no way I'm going to support anything that has anything to do with it, and vice versa. I mean, both parties are looking at it from the same way, and that's not wise.
Yeah, we can do better than that.
Yes, exactly. That's just not wise.
And not only we can do better than that, and still be who we are,
sure,
with our current beliefs and values.
Absolutely.
Right.
Okay. So we get it. We get that. This can get some people's blood boiling, all right? And we understand that, and we're going to try to do our best tonight. We just want to make things better. We want to try to make each one of our lives better, and what that means is, to some extent, dial down the rhetoric, dial down the anxiety, dial down the fear, dial down. I mean, all of these things can help make your life better.
Right.
All right? So I think our perspective tonight is going to be refreshing. I'm hoping that it is. All right?
And open your mind. Or as they say in the Matrix, free your mind.
Yeah, let's
Right?
take the red pill. All right.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with doing that.
Come on. All right. So let's get some foundation going here. Project 2025. I already said it is from the Heritage Foundation, which is a conservative think tank. And let's talk about the Heritage Foundation. This is right from their website. Heritage's mission is to formulate and promote public policies based on the principles of free enterprise, limited government, individual freedom, traditional American values, and a strong national defense. Now, this is what's going to frame this perspective. This is their mission when they go do anything, and not just Project 2025, but this is who they are. All right, we're just making a statement. I mean, and you can like that, you cannot like it, it doesn't matter. All right? But they're the ones that put this whole thing together. And they hope that, this is their agenda, that the next conservative president, which certainly could be at this point, could be Donald Trump, depends on who wins in November, right? They want to just recommend, put this in his hands, or her, I mean, in this case it's a him, all right, his hands, and say, for the next 180 days, we'd love to help facilitate
Do
this agenda. Exactly.
Do this. Right?
Okay? That's their mission. All right. Now, again, we're just giving you some background here. We're not trying to make a judgment one way or the other. All right. But what this document, here's some of the highlights of this document. Now, I'm not talking about the specifics of it. I'm talking about the high level. Here's why we did this. Here's what we hope to accomplish through this document. Restore the family as the centerpiece of American life and protect our children. That's a bullet point.
Yeah.
Dismantle the administrative state and return self-governance to the American people. That's another bullet point.
Okay.
Defend our nation's sovereignty, borders, and bounty against global threats. And lastly, secure our God-given individual rights to live freely, what our Constitution calls the blessings of liberty. Now, that's what this whole document is. There's the summary.
That's the overall theme of the whole thing.
There it is. All right. So
that doesn't sound like it should be like people should have an issue with that. But I know people do.
Well, I think what it is
maybe it's how you get there. That's
that's a great point. Is what does that mean? And you can read each one of those and go, well, tell me more about what that really means. I mean, okay, I'm reading it, but what does that really mean? And I think that you're exactly right. How do you get there can be one point of contention. And the other thing is, well, wait a minute. What about this, and this that isn't there?
Right. Has something been left out?
Oh, that's right. The omissions that are a part of that, right? Okay. So here we go. We have this document, and again, it's gone across social media, and there's lots of rhetoric that comes with this, of course. And again, I really wish. Well, let me say this. I told you this before we even started, Stu. I'm going to commend the Heritage Department to start this whole discussion, if you will, and just say, good for you. You at least formulated a plan. Okay?
Right.
Whether I agree with it, I don't agree with it, that's not the point. The point is they spent a ton of money and a lot of man hours and women hours, all right, a lot of people hours, and they put together something that they think is good, that they think will change the country for good. And they want to be able to take it and put it in this case, I'm just going to use Donald Trump as because that's the next, could be the next person, put in his hands.
Right.
Now, that's a good, hello, all right? Now, the Democrats don't have that, all right? They still need to formulate their whole platform per se. They have the 2020 one that's out there still. But they don't really, you can't really go to a Democratic National Committee's website, or certainly not Kamala Harris's website, and see a plan. This is really kind of not there.
So you're making a really good point here, Mac. I don't want the Rogers to miss is that there's different ideas out there for how best to run our country in this case.
Right.
And how to go about doing that. And each of them believes that their plan is the best plan to give everybody a better life.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
Now, the plans could be 180-degree opposites, which is
could,
interesting. But
Yeah.
but each one, here's what I believe, no matter which party or which person it is, that they each believe that they're doing what is best.
Right.
Based on their value system and their beliefs and how to get things accomplished.
Right. Well, and,
in
and
our
that,
country.
there you go. So there's the foundation of it all. Okay. Now, where it starts to get sticky, all right, is in the rhetoric. All right. Then this is what gets people, excited. This is what you see out in social media. A lot of the pushback that comes from this. People that haven't even read the document. I'm sure they haven't. All right. But when the guy that heads this thing up says something like this, okay? And so I come full circle on this response and just want to encourage you with some substance that we are in the process of the Second American Revolution, which will remain bloodless if the left allows it to be. Now, again, I'm not taking sides. I'm just trying to say that when you make a statement like that this document right here is going to be revolutionary, and if the left will just stay out of the way, then it's going to get bloodless. You already set everything up now for everything to just, the pucker factor goes right up when you make a statement like that. All right?
What's interesting to me in that statement is because I'm with you on that, and what's interesting is that there's a way to present information. Like what if those words came across as, let me tell you why we believe this is the best way. Let me convince you of what instead of almost like a threat.
That's exactly
and it happens
right.
on all sides, every which way but loose. People are
Yeah.
They feel like that's the way to get something accomplished, but to me, it's not. It's not a way to get anything done.
Typically, when you start the fear factor stuff, all right, and you get everybody all worked up, and you use words like revolution, bloodless, all this other kind of stuff, all these connotations come to your mind now, and everybody gets all excited about it, and for good reason a lot of times, all right? So again, what we're trying to do is say, that's him. He wants to do that. He wants to promote this in that way. Whatever, all right? We're asking you guys. We're recommending. We're counseling. We're encouraging. We're just asking that if you want to promote this, or we're going to take it to a broader spec, and whatever comes across you on social media that you think is good, that you want to share. Oh, yeah, I'm going to forward that. I'm going to share that. I'm going to promote that. Whatever that is, do your homework. Make sure the verbiage, make sure it's true, first of all. And secondly, use, like Stu's talking about, take the verbiage, make your case, promote whatever you want to, but do it in a way that's respectful, that just doesn't have to name call and doesn't have to get down in the ditch and start this kind of stuff, because it just gets propagated.
These days we're not doing our due diligence as just a people, as a society, because of the speed of information, especially in social media. We see something that comes across our eyes and we immediately, a lot of times, just believe, oh, this is true, and send it off without doing what you're talking about, without cross-checking the information, assessing the source it's coming from. I mean, maybe finding other people that are saying the same thing to make sure it's not just like one person's opinion. I mean, we're not spending enough time.
Yeah.
And it's because of the speed of which everyone's trying to live life.
We need to do it better, damn it.
We need to slow down, take a breath.
It's got to start somewhere.
Absorb the information, right?
Yes. I mean, you know as well as I shared this story with you that I had a buddy of mine that shared some what I knew was false information. I knew it. Okay, it wasn't an opinion. It was facts. And I knew it was that they were wrong. I mean, plain and simple, those facts were wrong. And they had to do with numbers. So, again, I'm even getting a little more, tight on it. It's not my opinion or anything like that. And, I called him out on it. And, people are going to respond to whatever it is you do in whatever way they want to and believe whatever they want to believe. But I think we owe it to each other that if we see something that literally is just false, then make your case, offer an alternative, okay? Ask where that information came from. Gee, I kind of, that doesn't seem to add up to what I know to be. All right. I mean, point is, I'm going where Stu is going. There's a way that you can call out false information without having a name call.
Yeah, especially without doing that.
Yeah. Right.
And a lot of this comes from things we talk about right here on the Wise Guys, is building equity with people, like building a relationship so that you understand how to interact with them.
Right.
You know what might trigger them and what wouldn't, right? So why not say it in a way that would not trigger them if you have that information, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's your goal? What do I always say that, right? I'm
Yeah,
like,
I know.
what do you think that person's goal was in doing it the way they did it?
Yeah.
And that's what I think, if all of us thought about it in that way, I think we have a lot more compromise going on.
I think that's great
in the world.
perspective. You guys kind of called me on that because I got a little sideways with my buddy, and you had to kind of rein me in a little bit, but it's good advice.
Well, passion
That's the
gets
point.
involved, right? When
It does.
Especially when you believe you're right, somebody else is wrong, that kind of a thing. It gets passionate, man.
So, yes. And so, this particular thing from the Heritage Foundation, now because we're going to zero in on it a little bit. All right. They do this regularly. It's not like this is the first time Heritage has published something like this. All right. And here's the point. There's other stuff out there other than the Heritage Foundation. I mean, I don't care whether it's your next door neighbor or some other entity or group or whatever, and you can get all kinds of stuff that comes across your social media channel from all kinds of different channels. All right. So, take this for what it's worth, that this is one group of people's opinion about how to run the government, all right? But unfortunately, because of what Stu's talking about, that things happen at light speed, stuff gets propagated that a lot of times just is not true. It's just false, all right? And we're not talking about somebody's opinion, all right? I think that's good or I think that's bad. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, in this document, does it include that? Yes or no? And if your answer is yes, then where do you find it? All right? It's like Stu's talking about. Do your due diligence, all right? So a lot of stuff that's been passed around out there has been... I don't know how to use this word. Falsely is true, but I think a lot of it is because people just punched the button. Okay? Right. Somebody started something that really wasn't true, and then it just got propagated because nobody bothered to check it and go, wait a minute, that where's that? Okay? I don't see that anywhere. Hold on a minute. All right? And so really what we're challenging you to do is to do that. Okay? Just say, hey, hang on a sec. Wait a minute. I'm not so sure about that. All right? So what we want to do is maybe debunk a few of the things in there and then end with how we can apply some of our maverick, mystic, and mentorship to these concepts in general. So we're going to take a little break here and then we're going to be right back. Thanks.
Like what you hear so far? Join us in the Rogue Nation by going to our website, www.gorogue.life, where you will find links to our social media and podcast channels, posts on the Seeing Differently blog, and a way to subscribe to all our happenings. We encourage you to become a member of our cafe, where you can interact with us and fellow Roguers and keep the conversation going. Please share us and like us. And now, let's get back to our Wise Guys.
Okay, welcome back, gang. And again, we're talking about Project 2025 in this episode. We've already kind of fleshed out a bit of the larger. How did they promote this? Who is a Heritage Foundation? What are some of the pitfalls when stuff like this goes across social media. What can we do about it? And now we want to kind of talk about just some of the misnomers. And if you haven't done your homework, maybe we'll do a little homework for you. We're not going to take the whole thing, but we're just going to maybe hit a few of the high points. And we're going to encourage you, if this is important to you, to go figure out the rest of it. If you've heard some stuff that bothers you, just make sure it's true. Okay. So one of them, again, these are things that can affect a lot of Americans. All right. Maybe some of it's more pointed to certain groups, but something like raising the retirement age. Okay. No. All right.
So they're saying, somebody said that that's in there, but it's not.
Right. Exactly.
Is what you're saying.
Okay. So just relax right now about that. All right.
Right. So these are things that are somebody had put together some information and said, here's all the items in this Project 2025.
Well,
and what we're going to do is say, hey,
yeah.
This is in there. This isn't, based on having read the Project 2025 document.
And again, this isn't, this is more than one person sharing this kind of information as well.
Right.
This isn't just one document that came around out there, but this is a general idea that's sort of floating around out there.
So somebody thought that they were going to raise their retirement age, and that's not true.
Exactly.
Okay. Gotcha.
Okay.
All right.
Cut Social Security. Right. Obviously, that would affect a lot of Americans.
Right.
And that's just, again, that's just not true. Now, I'm not saying, here, let's back up.
It's not in there, is what you're saying.
It's not in there, but we're not also saying that some of the ideas that are in there, if you put it together in certain ways, and I'm not picking on Social Security, I'm just saying any of these, all right, that if you follow this path down, you start in A and then you go to B and then you go to C, I'm not saying that somewhere along the line, if they're going to do budget cuts and some other stuff's going to start to happen and this and that might not become part of the discussion. All right. I mean, who knows where this could go in the years to come, but both the retirement age and Social Security are pretty sacred cows. Right?
But if we're not speculating, we're just going based on what's in there, then right now this is not part of it.
Yeah, it's just not, all right?
And you know what's so interesting? It's very easy for us to do that, right?
Yeah.
Like start to go down, I'm not going to call it a rabbit trail, but just down a road where all of a sudden, they're going to cut Social Security.
Right.
Because you're already thinking, well, what if they make some decisions that could affect this? But so we're trying to encourage everybody, I think, to look at just what's there,
right,
and not add anything in between the lines, right?
Exactly. And somebody might have said something about this. I mean, there could have been a congressperson or a senator or somebody in government that could have connected the dot, and now all of a sudden you think that that's true.
Right.
And it can even come from the highest source. I mean, the two candidates that we have, I mean, they're not immune from saying stuff that isn't true. Or
God, it's so easy to do this, right, Mac? I mean, with our brains, it's so easy to do
don't
this.
Jump to conclusions is really what we're trying to say.
Right.
All right. How about higher taxes? Now, this is true.
Right.
It does. It does promote some higher taxes, but that is a really, really tough thing to talk about because it's so nuanced. But the bottom line to it is, yes, it could involve in some higher taxes. All right? Let's just leave it at that. You can look into it if you want to, but that is a yes. All right? Banning contraceptives, and especially the only reason I put this in here because we're talking a lot about the abortion thing and a lot of all this other kind of stuff is kind of up there, in the field. All right?
Right.
And that's just not true. All right? There is not going to be a federal ban on contraceptives.
Right.
Right? It's not going to happen. All right?
That's an emotional topic right there
Yes,
for a lot of people.
Yes, it is. Okay, because what also goes into that right to life and some other kinds of things, and I mean, everything kind of gets mixed up in that big pot. All right? So, no. All right? Cutting Medicare. Okay? False. All right? No. Right now, no plans to cut Medicare benefits. All right. So just exhale. Again, I'm not going to say that somewhere down the line, but we already talked about that. We're not going to connect the dots that don't need to be connected.
Right.
End the Affordable Care Act.
Now, this one I've heard.
Right.
I've probably heard this one more than some of these others.
Well, again, now I'm going to go back now to, part of the Republican platform right now will say that if you go out to the RNC's 20 points, all right, it starts out with a little preamble that says, well, the way that we want to get this done, all these 20 points, I'm not going to go into them, but the point being is the way to get them done is that we need to have a president that's a Republican, we need to have a Senate that's a Republican majority, and a House that's a Republican majority, all right? That's the way that they want to force some of this stuff through. Now, the Democrats did the same thing when it came to Obamacare, all right? They had the big stick. They had that situation, and they were able to just basically tell the Republicans, hey, we really don't care what you guys think, okay?
Right.
We can get this done, and we're going to get it done. Well, that's all well and good, okay? But that kind of stuff, I mean, today we still have issues with that. And the reason there was no bipartisan stuff, it was all basically along party lines. And so we have to be very careful about when you're talking about some of this stuff. In order to get it done, a lot of times you have to beat somebody else up over it. All right.
So the way you have this one worded, end the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare, is not true in the document, but you have a note that there's gonna be some adjustments that they want to make to it.
Right. Right, they're gonna. I mean, don't get me. I think the Heritage Foundation would certainly promote getting rid of it entirely. All right.
See, there you go again.
Yeah, I get. Yeah,
you're walking down that path.
Yeah, right. I mean, the Republican platform.
Did I just sound like
that.
President Reagan? There you go again.
All right. Rein me back in here. So, here's the point: the document does not say that we plan to end the Affordable Care Act.
Right.
All right, so let's just stop.
But make changes to it, is what they're saying.
Yes, they could make some changes to it.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
Here's a biggie. Eliminate the Department of Education.
I just heard this, like right out of the horse's mouth. I just heard this one, and I was kind of surprised because I wanted to hear, like, why? Why is that better to do that?
Yeah. Well, first of all,
you and I were talking about that, but it's true.
It's in the
true.
document.
That is in the document. Yeah.
Yes. So that they do want, and it falls under this sort of umbrella of giving more control back to the people as opposed to the federal government dictating wherever you might happen to live, whatever state, that kind of stuff, anything to do with the education of your children.
So it's not like educate. So when you hear eliminate the Department of Education, I bet many people are thinking, wow, you mean like school systems are gone? It's not that.
No.
It's like at the federal level,
right?
You get rid of that department, and everything now funnels down to the states. The states handle all the education in each of their states.
Right. And then, you have to deal with where does the funding come from because the federal government subsidizes and all of that. So point being is that's a biggie. That's up there.
But the federal level of that department would be gone, according to this.
Exactly. Now, there would be other things that would need to take place when that happens. All right.
Right. Gotcha.
All right. Next one. Use public taxpayer money for private religious schools. That is true. The voucher system.
So I think that one needs to be explained.
Okay.
Right.
So, again, it's a voucher. Mm-hmm. It isn't literally specifically for religious schools. All right. So you could take your voucher and go over here to a private school that wasn't religious, all right? But the point being is that you're going to start to give people more control over where they can send their children to school, and you're going to help them pay for that.
So you get money that's allocated for education. You get to choose where you're going with that money.
You get a voucher. Yeah,
Gotcha.
You don't get money in your bank account.
Or a voucher, right.
You get a voucher, all right, that you can then use to... And again, we're simplifying all of this, gang, okay? You want to find out all the details and how it all is supposed to work. I mean, they're very detailed in that report. If you want to go to this thing, you can read about it.
Well,
right?
I'm having this interaction with you because this is how people think, right? Like you start going down these roads that lead you someplace that isn't really what the point is or what we're talking about. So that's why I'm doing that. That's why I'm asking you
I think it's
these
good.
questions.
Yeah, because it's easy to do, all right? So, again, use the taxpayer money. Yes, there's voucher system that's being, that's being proposed. All right. And we'll just leave it at that. If you want to find out more about how that might all work and all that, then read the document. All right. Next, teach Christian beliefs in public schools. All right. That at the federal level is false. All right. That is not part of the document. All right? Don't try to tie together what these guys are talking about and somebody's, spouting off about, Christianity and in the schools and all this kind of stuff. Whatever you might hear out there right now is basically happening at the state level. Okay? So Louisiana, and I think it's Arkansas, some other states or the 10 Commandments and all this stuff, that's not being dictated by the federal government. Right?
That's the state making
That's
that
the
decision.
state, the school system in the state, and whether it's a local or whether it's the state. I mean, again, everything. I'm not up on enough of that to know specifically, but I'm just saying that P 2025 is not about specifically dictating to the states that they school systems have to teach Christian beliefs. Okay, so let's just take an exhale over that whole thing. All right. So those are just some of the highlights. There's a bunch more. Right. That we could be here forever.
Some false, some true. I mean,
Exactly.
there's just a whole bunch more of these.
Yeah.
Right?
Just if you here's our encouragement. If we didn't talk about something that you've heard that's got you bothered, that's got you hot under the collar, all right, then go to the document. It's very detailed. Just go there and see for yourself. All right. Then once you get it confirmed, right or left, it doesn't matter. You're for it, you're against it, whatever it might be, and you want to then go and speak your piece and do whatever it is you want to do, great. But you've done your homework and you've done your due diligence, okay? And all we're asking is please do it in such a manner that doesn't demean the other side.
Right.
That respects the other side's opinion as well, right? So we're going to end this little discussion. Let's just take one thing and this is for both now. So I'm not picking on anybody. I'm not picking on the right or I'm not picking on the left, right? But it's stuff like this that I think this election cycle or any election cycle, we ought to be paying attention to, all right? Now, you know what I do for a living, Stu, and
Yep.
All of it has to do with finance and risk and all of that kind of stuff. And so I'm constantly having to say, what's the possibility versus the probability? Could that be true versus how probable is it that it would be true, right?
Okay.
And I ask that question all the time about everything. And most of it's subjective. There's, you making a judgment call on that, all right? But very rarely are they the same. For instance, that might be 50%, probable, but it's 3% possible. All right.
Right.
I'm just saying that the numbers virtually never are the same. All right. So let's take one platform issue that's out there right now that both candidates are talking about, and that's no tax on tips. All right. They both said that they're for that's part of their platform. Mm-hmm. All right. So
wouldn't that be a good thing that they both agree on something?
you'd like to think, right? Oh my gosh, yeah. The one thing that they're saying about another platform.
Has the world stopped spinning? What just happened? There's agreement.
God. So here's the thing. If you're in the food service industry and you get tips, you like that idea?
Yeah, for sure.
Of course you
That's
do.
how I make most of my money.
Okay. And so, if you're going to do that, I'm more prone to want to vote for you, everything else being equal. I know there could be lots of other issues that come into this. I get it. I'm just talking about this one thing, all right? Mm-hmm. No tax on tips. Now, let's go back to my thing. Probable, possible.
Right.
All right. Is it possible?
Of course.
Of course. All right. It's possible that somewhere along the line, all the different legislation, right? Everybody having and it gets part of the deal. All right.
Right.
Probability. All right. Now, here's where you have to start to say, well, what are the good things about that and what are the challenges with that, right? And so it's real easy to say something like that or whatever else. I'm just saying we're gonna lump anything else that a candidate might say that they want to do for you or me. Mm-hmm. Right? It all sounds great, and I think we're intelligent enough to say, all right, I know so-and-so said that, but can there be a but there? Can we just say but? All right. How realistic is it to think, number one, that could really even happen? Now, you can say it, and you can say that you want to make it happen, but think about all the hoops you got to jump through to make that happen. And again, let's say you don't have all three branches of government in one camp, all right? Then you get to blame the other side, whoever that is, because you couldn't get something done, all right? But think about the ramifications of that. Do you realize how ridiculous, this is an opinion now, hello, how ridiculous that even really is? Because you're going to create, first of all, you create a tax deficit. I mean, there's money that the government's getting from those tips, all right, that it's not going to get.
Right.
Okay. Which really and truly doesn't make sense given our whole financial situation and everything else that's going on. I mean, it sure sounds great, but not the most prudent fiscal decision in the world to now. I saw a number that said $25 billion, whether that's correct or not, every year that they would not be getting, plus or minus. I'm not going to hang my hat on that, but the point is it's a bunch, all right?
Well, you're the financial guy, Matt.
Yeah.
But wouldn't that give me more money to spend? And if I spend more money, then I am paying taxes on.
Well, yeah, theoretically.
I'm
okay?
just thinking like a normal consumer right here.
I mean, theoretically, but that's taxes. That's sales tax. Okay, first
Right.
of all right. Mm-hmm. Now it does promote the economy and all that kind of stuff, where you're buying more TVs and you're buying more.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
But you also have to say, well, hopefully a portion of that's going to get saved, right? And so it's not going to go back into the economy, all right? But this is an argument for stimulus, right? This is what we're really talking about here.
Yeah, yeah.
But here's the other thing about it that you really don't even realize that's part of the equation. If we pass a law that says no tax on tips, do you really think that everybody's just going to lay down and go, well, okay, all of you food service people, you just got a break. Good for you. That ain't going to happen. What's going to happen is everybody's going to start to scramble to create as much tip income as they possibly can. All right?
Yeah.
So you're going to find all across the board, they're going to be looking for the loophole. They're going to be looking for ways to classify income as tips. And everybody's going to get so creative with that whole thing.
That's a whole different way to look at it now.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
Right. It totally changes how a lot of people think in generating income. You're right. Yeah.
And it's going
a
to
good
get
point.
sticky, and it's going to get creative, and it's going to get kind of gray areaed and everything else. And then what's going to end up happening is we're going to end up with way more budget shortfall than we anticipated. All right. So again, it sounds great, just like any tax cut does. Everybody ears perk up at tax cuts, But at the end of the day, you try to sell it to where, we're going to cut the taxes here, but we're going to make it up over here. Let me just tell you this right now. That never happens. Never. All right? It just doesn't. And any claim about that is just, it just isn't fully correct. I'm not saying that some money can't come back from something else, but at the end of the day, the minute you make a tax cut, we just end up going deeper in the hole.
So what's interesting about this example? This is a great example right now because it's happening right now, and both sides are doing it. Mm-hmm. But we're talking about how do you? This whole episode is about how do we use wise discernment when evaluating new information. Right. This is a whole lot of new information.
Yep.
So one of the things that we can do is consider the timing of the information, right? Especially during election years, like the timing can be strategic, so we have to be mindful, I think, about whether public opinion's trying to be influenced or voting behavior, et cetera, things like that. It's just all part of like, how do you use wise discernment? That could be something is considering
the herd mentality.
Sure. Yeah. Considering the timing of the information.
Right.
I mean, besides the obvious, cross-checking the information, the source, things, looking for context, are you hearing it in the right context?
Right.
That kind of a thing. So,
right. Listening with that third ear.
Yeah. Right.
So
interesting.
All of that said, all right, let's kind of wrap up and sort of do a little bit of our maverick, mystic, and mentor.
Yeah.
Just some tips.
What do they all say?
Just some nuggets, right?
Yep.
So from the maverick perspective, at least they have a plan. They went out there. They stretched it, man. They went outside the box.
Right.
You know, they made a plan. Good for them. They are actually envisioning what could be. Again, from their perspective, and whoever else happens to agree with it. But these are mavericky kinds of, displays, right?
Oh, of course.
Yeah. And they literally went out on a limb and said, this is what we think.
More people need to do that.
How about that?
Right? In their lives.
Right.
Say, look, this is what I think. This is what I want to have happen, and put a stake in the ground. Say, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, and not kiss my ass if you don't agree with me.
That's being the maverick out there, you guys.
Exactly.
Right? You hear that? That's being the maverick.
So do
that.
it. They did it. All right. But there's also the mystic perspective.
Yeah.
How about if we look at this thing and look for the good?
Yeah, for sure.
There is good in there, regardless of what side of the fence you're on. And believe that people, the Heritage Foundation or anybody that might think those are good, in general are trying to make things better.
This is what I said at the beginning of the episode,
exactly.
right? Yeah.
But that's a little more mystical. You have to dig for that. And then really we encourage all of you always to listen to this Holy Spirit for guidance.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Go to that mystery place and sit with it and just see how it resonates with you.
Right.
Trust that.
Yeah, don't ignore it. There's that tap on your shoulder, however it shows up for you. There's some information being presented, an intuition, you could call
exactly.
it. Something is coming your way, and you can either choose to ignore it or not. And when you don't, magical things happen.
Yes.
And wonderful things happen.
So don't ignore the mystic part of this, please. Okay. And then you have the mentor, right? The practical, the nuts and bolts kinds of stuff. Like just don't pass along false information. I mean, do your homework.
Yeah.
All right? Just do the right thing. Be informed. Okay? If politics is important to you and you're going to get bent out of shape if you see something that's this or that or the other side or blah, 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 they both have a platform. Both parties have things that they promote. Do your homework and go check it out and make sure you're in alignment with whatever wherever you're bent.
Whatever you value.
That's right. Okay. Understand that some of this stuff that's in there might become a reality. And so now what do you do with that? You don't get fearful of it, especially if you're against it, all right? If you're for it, then you just don't get all anxious. Well, when's that going to happen? I mean, you just let the process, because most of us can't affect the process. All right? It's just going to be what it's going to be. But don't fall prey to the fear factor. Just don't go there. Because once you start reacting and making decisions from a fearful spot, that's not going to be wise. And that's not going to have discernment.
Very true.
Right? And lastly, I don't know, this is just an encouragement that says, let's just stop the name calling rhetoric. Can we?
Good luck with that, Mac.
Well, it's going to happen, but I'm going to encourage all of the roguers out there to just dial that down.
Yeah.
It's got to start somewhere.
I mean, what's the point, right?
Better.
In doing that. I always wonder that. Like, what's the intent? What are you trying to make happen?
Just don't pass along. If you read it and you see it and you think it's a good idea, just don't pass it along in the same way, maybe with a bunch of capital letters and a bunch of exclamation points and all that kind of stuff. Make your point. Have an opinion. It's all good. But do it wisely. Can we say it that way?
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
All right. There it is, man.
Wow.
There it is.
That wasn't too bad. I don't feel so bad right. I don't feel like anxious or anything right now.
Well, again, we approached it a little differently, and we're hoping you guys got some exhale out of this whole thing. Really, truly. That's what we were after, to try to, in this whole political season, and we got, 80 days, whatever it is, to the election, right? Let's just try to do it better between now and then, and maybe post, depending upon how that election goes. Who knows what kind of post-election stuff we may have to deal with. The point is, let's do it better maybe than we've ever done it before.
Oh, yeah.
How about that?
Yeah,
Can we leave it with that?
Yes.
All right, brother. Thank you.
Yes, very
Fun
good.
stuff tonight,
Thanks.
man.
Yeah.
All right, Rogers. Thanks so much. We appreciate you guys listening. Check us out. Come, we'll have some questions out in the cafe that you can mull over and use however you want to with your folks or with us. We appreciate you listening. And we will see you next week. I don't think I have the agenda firmed up for next week yet, so I can't give you.
It'll be good though, whatever it
Yes.
is. It's going to be
It'll
interesting.
All right, gang. Thanks so much. Take care. Have a great week.
Wow, you made it and can now unbuckle. Thanks for listening to Project 2025, where the guys encouraged you to use your maverick, mystic, and mentor abilities to apply deeper wisdom as you evaluate social media information. Remember to visit the website at www.gorogue.life for lots of follow-up information. See the show notes for any links to episode content, and join us in the ongoing cafe conversation where we post some thought-provoking ideas and challenges for your roguish conversations. Oh, and of course, tell everyone you know about us and like, follow, and engage. Be sure to tune in next week when Mac unleashes another unthinkable conversation. That is, if you dare.